Hi, I'm Aditya, and today I'm going to talk about Trelae. I think this is the first video where I'm going to talk about end to end what we are building, what Trelae is, what's the vision, the motivation, and hopefully you'll understand a little bit more about what we're doing and why I think you should be really interested. So, as you can see, our tagline is kind of this statement: the virtual friend or coworker host. So, we want to be this platform which hosts virtual friends and coworkers, so the place where they live, and we're going to give them the tools that they need in order to function and exist autonomously, so that you can utilize them to get your work done and you 10x or 100x your productivity. Your own personal assistant, your own coworker ready at your disposal. So this is kind of what we're doing, but let's kind of break this down and get there slowly. So, firstly, this is kind of where we're starting from. What we think AI is definitely going to change the world. There's so many advancements. Almost every week, we're seeing something crazy in the news. Some new launch by an AI lab, a new AI company, someone's creating some new consumer app or something targeted for enterprises to improve their productivity. And it's pretty clear that this is some groundbreaking technology, and it's definitely going to change the world in some way. But there's a lot of uncertainty in what it's actually going to look like. Everyone has their own opinion on what the future is going to look like, and we want to be in a position to decide how exactly it's going to turn out. And that's where we're kind of going with Trelae. So we have this very distinct vision of how things might look like, and we want to actually make that a reality. So this is what we think. We think that AI becomes extremely accessible, which means that anyone should be able to access and utilize these technologies. It's not going to be something that only a very small portion of the population is using, and it's going to be it's going to be such a core integral part of our lives, where we interact with it numerous times a day, and sometimes we don't even realize that AI is doing a lot of work behind the scenes. And the other thing is, one part of AI adoption is going to be these systems taking a form which is indistinguishable from human beings. So they act as human. They behave a lot of ways very similar to how human beings work. One set of apps might just use AI behind the scenes and you just never know it. But I think there's going to be a large portion where it just mimics human beings. So whether that is humanoid robots or with what we see with ChatGPT, where it feels like you're talking with a human being, that's also going to be a huge portion. And I think with apps like ChatGPT, we're just scratching the surface, because there are so many things that just don't work, and we have a lot to work on. But I think that's going to be one of the directions where these technologies move. And when you want to make it indistinguishable from human beings, what does it actually mean? What kind of work do we have to make more progress on? So first is our interactions. Just like how we interact with the human being, that might be through speech. You talk to someone and then they naturally answer back. This is a very complicated problem. It's not that simple. As human beings, we just kind of instinctively understand facial cues. We know when to speak, when we shouldn't, when to interrupt people and when not to. So there's a lot of work left to be done in this space. This is definitely one more of interaction. And of course, you text with your friends, with your coworkers. So you should be able to simply text with AI too. There are a lot of other modes of interaction that we need to complete. And the second thing is a memory system. AI, in order to behave like human beings, they have to intelligently learn and remember. Current systems like ChatGPT, when they claim that they have memory, this is extremely rudimentary. It's just far from complete, because it doesn't work. It's not like a human being. So you need to have a system where if you talk about something, it just instinctively knows. You shouldn't have to keep reminding it stuff. And the other thing is, prompt engineering shouldn't be a thing in the future. We shouldn't have to know exactly how to say something. Of course, if you know how to communicate clearly, you're going to get better results. That's true even with human to human interactions. But prompt engineering specific to an AI model to get it to give better results, that shouldn't be a thing. We need to have natural conversations that any human being without any prior learning or experience should be able to do easily. And the other thing is AI becomes capable and autonomous. So what that means is you go beyond just talking with it and getting back an output. It's not just a language model in this case. Now it can take actions, but we've seen that apps are able to do this. AI apps are able to do this right now. You see a lot of people saying they have agents, and agents essentially means you give these models tools. So at an appropriate time, they can say, okay, I want to utilize this tool, and then you just perform, utilize that tool on behalf of the model. So what that might look like is if you ask a question which requires some recent data that the model doesn't have, then the model can say, okay, I want to use a search tool. This is my query. And then you take, whoever's building this app, they take that query, do the search on the internet, and give the response back to the model, and then it outputs. So this is a very simple, again, rudimentary form, but we want to take this further. So AI should be able to go out in the world and complete tasks based on your high level instructions. It needs to be able to break down the task into subtasks, and it needs to be able to accomplish them. And every time it accomplishes something, it should know, okay, it should be able to evaluate and decide, okay, did it actually work properly? Did I make a mistake? How effective was it? Should I make any course corrections? And work so on. And there's a lot left again to do in this space, and we think that we want to go more towards this autonomous capability where the model stands on its own like an actual employee in a company. You shouldn't have to babysit and monitor these AI systems as much as we do today. So next, the question is, how are we building this future? So as I said before, we're creating a platform that hosts virtual people. And what does that mean? So we have real people, that's people like me, human beings. And then what we can do is we can come to Trelae and create a virtual person. And creating a virtual person, I'll show you, it's just a click of a button. It happens literally instantaneously. There's no fancy process over here. But what this does is this creates this concept of a virtual person within our platform. And you can think of this as a human being. The only thing is it doesn't have a body. So that's why we call it virtual. It just lives within our platform. In the cloud, it's completely digital. So this is a smart entity. So you can talk to it. It's going to talk back. And we want to have all the same mediums as you would expect. So you can text with it or you can talk with it verbally, and it's going to answer back. But what's more is, what the Trelae platform gives is the ability for these virtual people to exist very similar to human beings. So even though it doesn't have a body, we give it compute resource, we give it internet connection. So what it can do is it still has a way to interface with the rest of the world. And we give it all the tools needed for it to take actions autonomously and independently. So if you work in a company and you want to get some work done, you can come to the Trelae platform, spin up a virtual person instantly, and give it some high-level task, and it might ask a couple of clarifying questions, and then it's just going to go and do it like a real employee. And sometimes it might need to come back to you for questions, for doubts, and you can always help assist it wherever required. But the very cool thing is this is no longer a chatbot like ChatGPT. Every interaction, every action it does, it constantly keeps remembering and learning, so that you are less required to do this special prompt engineering and then having to repeat yourself. It just knows what to do. And over time, this is going to become super smart and knowledgeable. It'll know everything about your workflow, your process, and it's just going to make your productivity, much more better than what it is today. And you don't have to just spin up one virtual person. You can have multiple, and then they can coordinate the work among themselves. So when I say virtual people, I want to give some clarity, talk about what exactly it means to us, what are the properties of these virtual people. So the first thing is, obviously our intention is to be analogous to human beings. It should be able to do anything human being does, but because it doesn't have a physical body, obviously if you tell it, okay, pick up that box and then put it into this room, it's not going to be able to do that. We don't have any robotics engineers on this team, but maybe someday in the future. So apart from that, it should be able to do everything online. So you talk with it should be able to remember and learn with every interaction, and then you should be able to delegate any large task with simple high-level instructions, and that should be more than enough. So its job is to ask clarifying questions, break it down into subtasks, and it will start executing actions one after the other independently, and it will evaluate with every step to make sure it's on the right track, and it'll keep you in the loop so that you can intervene if needed. And the other thing is, it can operate either like on behalf of you. It can take actions on my machine. So let's say I'm having this laptop, and then maybe I was working on this coding project, or maybe I'm just trying to find a file and I forgot where I put it. Right? So if I'm not a tech savvy user, I can ask my virtual person that I've created, hey, I was working on this file, but I forgot where it was. Can you help me find it? And it's going to execute actions on my system to find the file and retrieve it for me. So now this is a very, very simple example. I said this really doesn't make sense. Like, there are so many applications that can do it, but maybe I'm not a tech savvy user and I just don't want to go through the pain of researching what's the best application and how to use it. I can just tell the virtual person to do it, and it's going to help me out. But the possibilities are endless. I can be working on this coding task, and this can essentially work in parallel with whatever your IDE is. Maybe you're using an IDE like VS Code or even Cursor, right? If you prefer to do a lot of code on your own, this could just replace Cursor. You can have an IDE like VS Code or JetBrains, and then this can be your AI companion. You don't even need another AI IDE. But if you want to use Cursor, that's fine. This can still work in parallel with Cursor. So this is capable enough to scour your code base, understand what you're working on, and then if you tell it to debug or maybe write a new feature, it's going to be smart enough to know which files to touch, suggest changes, and then with your approval, it can make those changes. So that is operating on behalf of me on my machine, but it can also operate independently. So because we give it its own compute, it can operate in the background in the cloud. So you can just shut your laptop, board a flight, and maybe by the time you're done, when you land in your arrival country, it's going to be done at the task. So it can operate completely independently, asynchronously with its own compute in the cloud, and that's another very important property that we're building. So how is this different? I think based on what I've said, that should be plenty to explain how this is different. But if you're still wondering, okay, how is this different from this company A or company B, hopefully this should clarify. So the first is the memory part. The memory that I talked about is essential to what we're building, and we have created a system that we have conveniently called Atlas. So this is called the Adaptive Tree-Based Logical Access System. This is kind of verbose. It's a bunch of fancy words, but essentially what it is it's a logical system that should be way more predictable and accurate. Because with traditional AI apps, I'm going to get a little bit technical. They use technologies like vector databases, systems like RAG, which helps you quickly retrieve memory that you might have stored earlier. But this is not at all guaranteed to retrieve exactly what you need. A lot of times it returns insufficient data, and sometimes it returns too much data, which is irrelevant. And all of this stuff is going to cloud the model's context, and it's just going to lead to a poor experience. We want to retrieve exactly what we need for any particular conversation, and for that we need a logical system. We need these models to behave like human beings. So if I tell an employee to work on some task, He is smart enough to ask me clarifying questions. What do I need to know to accomplish this task? And that's how the model should work. So the model should be able to scour its own memory and retrieve what it needs and then start working on the task. So that's the system that we have created, put very simply, and we have spent a lot of time to perfect this, and we think this is the secret sauce that's going to differentiate our product and make it way more better and much more delightful experience than any other app that you're using. And these are a couple of specific examples from popular other AI apps and models. So if you most people are probably experienced with the ChatGPT app, and if you notice, regardless of which pricing tier which you're subscribed to, they are inherently limited by context limits. So when you start conversing with a model, there's only so much you can talk, and after that it's going to say that you've reached the limit and you have to start a new conversation. And yeah, they do have a button, okay, click on a new conversation, but that's, in my opinion, a suboptimal experience. Every time you want to talk, you shouldn't have to start a new conversation. In fact, they recommend you to start a new conversation, because if you're going to talk about 5 different topics in the same conversation, there's a lot of irrelevant stuff, and it's just going to confuse the model and going to lead to suboptimal responses. If I talk about if I ask it to write a report for I don't know, some class that I'm in, and it's writing these essays and we're going back and forth, and then suddenly I ask it questions about writing an email to my professor about something, what I said before is completely irrelevant. There's no reason for us to include that in the conversation. So this is something that's an issue with these current apps. And the other thing is, you want to talk to it like a human being. So if you talk to your friend, you're not starting a new conversation like ChatGPT every time you talk to your friend. It's just one giant conversation. You just open up your messaging app, whether that's iMessage, WhatsApp, whatever it is, and you start typing. That's how these interactions with these AI systems have to be, not like this. Then this image on the right you see is from Gemini. Gemini, some of their models are incredible because they have such huge context limits. Some of them have 1 million or even 2 million input tokens. That means you can just throw at it large files, books, and ask any questions. But again, the problem is, this is not like a one size fits all. You can't just simply throw a book at it and say, start asking questions, because when you add these huge, this large number of tokens, it's very computationally expensive. It's going to take time to answer. And as you can see in this image, just to answer the simple question of how many chapters are there, it took more than 100 seconds. And you might think, okay, maybe that's just this one message. The subsequent messages might be faster. But no, if you try it out, you'll realize that every message, it's going to take a long time. And that's because this is a largely stateless system. It doesn't have any memory or context of what you said before. It's not storing your message history. It's just starting over every time. And that's how they work. And this is a very suboptimal experience. You have to build a system that's efficient. You can't just throw it an entire book every time you want to ask a question. The other thing is needle in a haystack problems. If you put this huge book into it, it's not going to always accurately pick out specific information from the book. They claim to do well at these kind of tasks, but it's always debatable. And human being, if you throw a large book at it, it's not, he's not, he or she is not going to read the entire book every time you ask a simple question about it. If I ask a question that's probably pertaining to one particular chapter, that's all I'm going to read. And that's how we want these AI systems to behave too. We want them to mimic human beings so that they are effective and efficient. And then the last thing that is probably very common is these, again at the very core of it, these models, they're just language models. You give it some input and then it gives back some output. So if you tell it to write an email, it'll just give you the content, but it's your job to copy and paste and then put it into your respective app. Although there are some advancements with tool calling, with things like the model context protocol, these are still a little bit limited. we want to not create an agent that is very domain specific, that works very well at one very specific set of tasks. We want to create a general purpose, smart, virtual person that is completely customizable. So I create a virtual person for me, you create a virtual person for you, and that is totally separate. It's isolated. That is for you, and this is for me. And it's personal to me, and it should be able to do anything. I want to write an email, it should be able to do that. I want to write code for my next coding project, it should be able to do that. We want it to work across different domains, industries, and it should just work because this knows about me, it knows about what's important to me, my preferences, my workflows. And so we want this general purpose assistant, and that's how we think it should work, and that's what we're building towards. So this is where we are currently. If you download our product, this is how it's going to look like. On the left is the very first screen you will get when you download our product and log in. So this is why I said it's so simple to create a virtual person on our platform. All you have to do is give it a name, and you can select this box that says secure data. And if you do that, all of your chat history and including the memories that are stored will be encrypted by using a key that is derived from your PIN. When you sign up, we will ask you for a PIN, just like how you have on apps like WhatsApp, and we're going to encrypt it using that. So that means even if we wanted to, we cannot decrypt this data. And this is a first, especially in this AI industry that's very rapidly evolving, and no one else has done this. We think this is essential to building trust so that you can confidently use these services and be more productive without worrying about the safety and security of your data. And we're proud to have built this feature right from day one. And on the right, you can see another image where I'm chatting and conversing with this with one of my virtual people. And this is just a familiar chat UI, and this is the capabilities that you can do with this is just growing day by day. Every week we're adding new features, but just at this very screenshot you can see that I'm telling it to search for a particular file, and it's able to search, and it's able to course correct if it makes any mistakes, and then once it finds information, it's able to get back to me. All of this is happening, like it's able to take actions on my system in a secure manner, and it's requesting my approval whenever required. So again, this is something that you're very limited by in other products, and we are building this in addition, obviously, to the cloud compute feature that I said already. So our product is it's out. You can try it out. You can I think we had a wait list for a while, but now we're going to take it off, and you can just go to our you can go to our website and download a product, try it out. And we have this core set of features done. So you can create a virtual person, you can optionally make it secured and start conversing with it. We use the latest frontier model which is available, and of course this changes day to day, but we're using the latest and the greatest model so that you have the best in intelligence, and you can just ask it anything you want. And and in addition to that, one of the features that we have today are these abilities to execute local actions. So anything that you want to do on your computer, whether you wanted to draft a document and save it to your file system, whether you want to search for a file or work on a coding project, it'll be able to do all this and assist with these actions that you have to take on your computer. This is all done. And we have some things which are in the works. So the cloud compute feature, we are actively working on it, and we should have the first versions of it in 1 or 2 weeks, very, very soon. And there's a lot of other things that I talked about, and all of them, they're in the pipeline, and we will start to see them very, very soon. So, I think that's about it. For this video, I wanted to give you a brief rundown of everything we're doing, what we're doing, why we're doing, and I'm very excited to share the product with everyone else. If what we are talking about sounds interesting, please go ahead to our website, Trelae.com, see what we're doing, download the product and try it out. It's my guarantee that this should be better experience than any other product. And all I ask you to do is anytime you try to reach, you see yourself reaching for some kind of AI app like ChatGPT or something else, try your own product, use this for a week, and I think that you will start to find our product much better, because it'll just know you. Every subsequent question that you ask, you're just gonna find the outputs way better. And we want to make this incredibly personal, so that you become effective at your job, you become way more productive, and focus on things that actually matter. So that was it. Thank you for watching for so long. Try out the product, let me know your feedback. Thank you.